Okay, so welcome everyone to the Twin Flame Masterclass. So I'm going to share my screen with you here. We'll get right into it. Okay. Alrighty, so I think I know where everyone's from. We were all here yesterday, so we won't get into that. So for those of you who don't know, and for those watching the replay, my name's Anthea Spark and I'm a soul-centered coach. I have a background in soul-centered psychotherapy, following the philosophies of Carl Jung. And I'm also a kinesiologist and energy healer. And back in 2018, I really started to understand shadow work in a really profound way. And I started to understand that all of these different clients that I was working with and the different relationship dynamics and issues that they had all led back to the same core conditioning from my childhood. And I created these groups. I created these pages, Divine Masculine Empowerment, to support men to break down the walls between them so that they can really understand themselves better and find a new way of being in this world. I created this page called What I See Is Me, which was all about twin flames, relationships and soul contracts, and also the Healing Little You page, because essentially if we have unhealed childhood trauma, it's really hard for us to move forward into adult relationships. These are my little angels, Olivia and Sophie. They're my most powerful mirrors, and they reflect back to me all of my own unhealed wounds and traumas and things that I need to work on to become a more empowered person. So I got into shadow work when I started studying, well, before I started studying the philosophies of Carl Jung. I went and completed this program called Cutting the Ties That Bind. And it's all about the etheric cords that bind us to people. Right? And it was really powerful because it started to teach me about the power of the mirror and how everything is a reflection of something within us. And so it took me many years to really understand the different dynamics of the mirror, but this is essentially how I got into shadow work. So let's talk about twin flames. Okay, so let's talk, does everyone understand? Is everyone on a twin flame journey or has been on a twin flame journey? And everyone understands the runner chaser dynamics and everything like that. So I'll just quickly touch on it. So some people say, they start seeing 1111 and they start to be led down this path where they see more numbers and they meet someone who they believe is their twin flame, which leads to a spiritual awakening and it creates a lot of dynamic change in their lives. So what then happens is, your twin flame is essentially the most powerful mirror you will ever meet. And it's like you're looking at yourself or you're looking at an aspect of yourself, even though it's not you. And essentially what happens is we have this amazing, powerful connection, right? And then something happens and one of the flames runs from the connection because it's too intense and too confronting, right? So we have this explosive tower moment, which essentially leads to somebody, to the chaser, as what they call it in the twin flame story. It leads to the chaser feeling alone, feeling abandoned, feeling left out in the cold, feeling that they are left to do the inner works. Has everyone experienced that on their journey? Yeah. So essentially when we get to that point, what's important is that we look at our wounds. We look at why we are confronted with these deep core beliefs and wounds again and again. So what will happen is, and I was saying this to someone the other day, is that there's a really profound lesson here, and it's often really brutal, right? Because it sends us deep into our wounds, where the previous relationships we've had with people may have highlighted those wounds for us. This one sends us straight into the core of our wound. That's why it feels so brutal and you feel like your whole world is falling apart. And this is where it's important that you go in and you do the inner work on yourself. This is what the separation phase is all about. Okay, and so I want to go deep into this so that you can understand how important it is to heal this stuff within yourself first before coming back or trying to come back into the connection, because if you don't heal this stuff first and you try to keep going back into the twin flame, trying to connect with your twin flame, you're still going to be met with the same tower moment over and over again until you change the energy within yourself. Okay, so is everyone with me so far? Yeah, okay. So between the ages of 0 and 6, you create your belief systems, and they're based on the things you see adults do and the things you hear adults say, and then your own little interpretations of things. Now, everyone's family dynamics are so different. Some people grow up without a dad or a mum, or, you know, their parents pass away and they're raised by their grandparents. It's all really, really unique and different. So it's really important for you. No one can tell you what your beliefs are. You have to go in and do that work for yourself. Like, I can guide you as a teacher and a guide, but essentially you have to tell me what your childhood beliefs are, right? When you understand what your core beliefs are, that's when you can change them. So from your core beliefs, you create the rule book that you're going to use to live your life by. And you use those rules unconsciously, and you use them in your relationships with others, right? And it's not until you have these massive tower moments, when you have a powerful mirror standing in front of you, that you can really look deeper into your beliefs and your wounds when you're in them, to understand yourself better. So let's just have it, and I won't go into too much detail around this, because this will take a really long time. We're going to focus more on the inner child part. But essentially, this is what makes up your unconscious mind, right? All of the stuff that we're not really taught to look at, right? So this is all the inner stuff. So what we have here is, we have our core beliefs down the bottom, okay? These are the pillars that we create to stand on. Now, these core beliefs, they create our experiences. So if I believe, based on my childhood upbringing, that I'm going to be emotionally, like I was emotionally abandoned because I'm not good enough, right? So my parents, let's say my parents were busy, and they didn't have that time to spend quality time with me to nurture my emotions and help me understand them. And I created a belief that I'm not good enough, therefore I'll be abandoned. Then that is a belief that it's a belief that I'm going to carry with me. And because I carry that energy, I'm going to create that experience over and over again. And I'll find it in my friendships in primary school, and then in my relationships with romantic partners, and then probably more friendships. So that belief will keep proving itself right over and over again. It's like a thought I keep thinking unconsciously, okay? So that's my evidence that I'm not worthy. That's the wounded ego going, oh, there's your evidence, see? Knew that person was going to do that to you. You knew that was going to happen. So does that make sense to everyone? So here we have our inner child, okay? And our inner child is really the key to setting ourselves free. The inner child is essentially the core program that runs over and over and over again. And so if we want to change something in our life, then we have to tap into what that program is, what the programs are, and heal our inner child. It's almost like you have to teach this little person how to live in the world again. You have to convince them that the way they've been living isn't really serving them, or it isn't going to get them what they want. Okay, so this is where the inner child healing is really profound. And then you have the positive changes up here that you make as an adult, because as an adult, you are aware of some of the things that don't serve you. And you're like, you know what, I don't like that about myself. I want to change it. I'm going to make an effort to speak nicer, or be kinder, or be more compassionate to people. So consciously, there are some things, as the spiritual being you are, and as you wake up to that more and more and you meditate, you will begin to see positive changes. You've got your mindset, which is really, really important, right? And we talk about this a lot, right? The mindset is key. Your mindset has to be more powerful than your emotions, right? So there's a whole bunch of things in this equation that you need to look at. Up here is your wounded ego. And the wounded ego is, and I could do a whole class on the wounded ego, is, the way you experience pain, how you see yourself as a victim in your life, right? And the list goes on and on. And then up here is how you see your reality. So this is the filter that you see your life through. Okay, so it's really important that if you want to create a brighter future, that the lens that you see your future through has to be shiny and clean. You can't be carrying the beliefs from the past that have led to your trauma and pain into the future with you. All right. And there's you, that's you up here being all excited and happy that you're going to create this really positive future for yourself. Okay. So this is all the stuff that you have to work through and understand so that you up here can continue to be supported to create the positive change that you want. Right? Any questions so far? Okay. All right. So let's just talk a little bit about the childhood beliefs, right? Even though we tapped on them a little bit. So look, sometimes we have these really beautiful positive experiences in our childhood. We feel nurtured as a baby. We are a part of these really healthy family dynamics, even though they're not always perfect. And we have a really good childhood. And I have had some people say to me, yeah, but I had a really good childhood. And I'm like, that's amazing. That's great, right? But everything still stems back to childhood. Anything in our adult life that we struggle with stems back to some kind of childhood belief or experience. So even if you did have this really positive and beautiful family dynamic, you may have been in a situation where you felt compared to someone else, or you felt abandoned by your mum in a moment, right? Where she said she was too busy to sit down with you. Because as a kid, you're really sensitive. So in that moment, you could have created a very small belief that you're not important, or you're not as important as your brother, right? Maybe your mum was helping your brother with something, or dad would take your brother to play football, but he never took you, right? So it's really important for you to look at where these little things could have happened. But let's say you didn't have a very great upbringing and you were left to cry it out, or you weren't nurtured enough as a baby, you weren't held enough, you were often left with babysitters, or your parents argued a lot, and there was this unhealthy family dynamic. Whether it was in front of you or not, energetically, you would have picked up on that, and you would have created some beliefs. So let's say your mum abandoned your dad, and your dad was left to raise you, and it was just you and your dad. Now, whether your dad expressed it to you or not, you would feel that abandonment that he felt. You would feel his pain, and you would absorb it, and you would create some beliefs around it. Okay. And having your mother abandon you would create a whole bunch of beliefs within you. Maybe it's not safe to trust women. Even if your mother was there and she took out her frustrations on you, which often happens in family dynamics where the parent takes the frustrations off on the child when they're just being a child, that would create some pretty awful beliefs within you. Okay. So often some of the things that can happen later in your adult years when you are in your own relationships is you can get angry and shut down and avoid your partner, and your partner might drink excessively to suppress their emotions and not deal with the actual discomfort in the relationship, right? So when there's a lot of arguing going on, the people split, they kind of suppress it or overcome it or whatever, and they come back together and they continue the cycles over and over again, right? So let's talk a little bit about the inner child and why they need healing and what happens, right? So if you have unresolved issues from your childhood, essentially what you're doing, essentially what you have inside of you is a whole bunch of suppressed parts of you, right? Or unhealed parts of you from your past. And often what we do is we're like, I don't want to deal with that. That was the past. I'm moving forward into the future. But when you do that, what you're doing is you're actually defragmented, right? So there's parts of you all over the place. And so you're not really whole in this moment. And in order for you to feel whole and complete, you actually have to bring those younger parts of you back, right? So imagine that you have this massive house, and behind every door, there's hundreds of rooms in this house, and behind every door, there's a younger version of you that's unhealed, right? And what happens is that younger version of you who's angry, who's been abandoned, who has felt taken advantage of, they're in that room waiting for you to come in and heal them and invite them to come into the present moment with you. Yeah. Essentially, what I say is that they haunt you until you heal them. And the way that they haunt you and affect your adult life is that when you get triggered, right, when you get triggered by someone or something, you actually open up this portal, and that younger version of you who's been waiting for you to open up that portal steps in, takes over, reacts, says and does things out of anger and frustration that creates damage in your relationship, because all your logic has gone out the window in that moment. So it's really hard for you to be the adult in that moment when you've got a 6-year-old who's come in and taken over and is unleashing, right? And then when that younger version of you calms down and goes back into the room and your logic mind comes in, you're like, well, I didn't handle that well. I really reacted. I really blamed that person. I really didn't express what it is that I wanted to express. And this is what happens in the twin flame dynamic, because they trigger these deep, deep core wounds to open up within you. Like you actually get thrown in them. So what happens is when we get thrown in them, that's where those younger parts of us come out. Yeah, that's why we react the way we do, because it's so intense. Yeah, it's really hard to snap out of it. So this is why it's so important for you to go in and heal those younger parts of you, because until you do, you will always react in the presence of certain people or their behavior. This is where you have to go, wow, my mirror is standing in front of me and they're going through something right now. It's got nothing to do with me. And I'm just going to be here and see if I can support them and hold space for them in some way, because clearly I'm triggering something within them too. Right? Whatever you're feeling, they're feeling too. If you're triggered by them, they're triggered by you too. It's a mirror. Okay? It's a really powerful mirror, and it's really painful and intense. But when you go in and you heal these younger parts of you, the mirror won't trigger you anymore. That's the place where you want to get to. When you can get to the place where the mirror doesn't trigger you anymore, the mirror leans in and is like, hey, and you're like, hey, that's where you can create healthy relationships with your twin flame. It takes a little bit of work to get there. And the key is that, the thing is that when you heal yourself and you become, your vibration raises and it becomes like you become higher and higher, it helps your twin flame heal too. Because you're connected, when you heal, they step up and they want to heal. Right? Twin flames can't be in victim mentality and be in the same, they can't be leaning in when they're in victim mentality. Because what happens is when you're in victim mentality, your twin flame, it's going to trigger their victim mentality. And because it's so deep and intense, they can't handle it and they run. Yeah? Because you're showing them dark parts of their soul that they don't want to look at. Right? So they run. So it's really important for you to not chase them, because then what it means is you're becoming a runner too, and you're running from yourself. So this is where you have to stay and you're like, damn, I really wish they were here, but that's okay. I have to go in and do this inner work. And as you do the inner work and you stop forcing and pushing for them to come back, that's when they can come back. So any questions? Observations? Anything anyone throw anything?
It's a great description.
Yeah.
Anthea, it was lovely to hear your description of that, and you used words I hadn't heard before, like tower moments. That was an interesting phrase. Can you talk about that a little bit more, because I haven't heard that in the twin flame movement before?
Okay, so a tower moment's essentially where you know how we talked about the platform. Yeah, it's as if the platform you're standing on collapses. So let's say, you know, like just when you guys meet, you're having all this beautiful interaction, and then something happens and you're like, well, something's off now, what's going on, right? And then that platform, that really beautiful platform that you're standing on, it collapses. Something happens and it kind of, there's a disagreement or an argument and something breaks down. It's like something breaking down.
You fall off the tower.
You fall out of it, yeah. So it's like, you know, you literally are falling out of it. And, you know, sometimes the tower moment can be it can be a beautiful experience where someone says, hey, I really love you. And you're like, oh my God, like, and you've been waiting for them to say that, or you've been wondering that. That's also a tower moment, because you've actually opened something up and then you build a new platform. Yeah. So that's what it's like. And often when we experience the negative tower moment, it sends us deep into our shadow. And that's where we have this opportunity to do deep, profound healing work within ourselves. So this is where you go into your wound and you're like, okay, I want to heal this stuff. And I want to see life in a different way. I want to see these experiences to grow, not as if something is happening to me. I don't want to be a victim anymore, right? And you start to realize that you create your reality by the way you see your life. And so this is where we go into all of the, you know, the mindset stuff and the unconscious mind and you changing your beliefs. So this is where this whole process, if you allow it to be an experience, a journey, rather than trying to create an outcome, you will realize just how profound and powerful you are, right? And how you create your own reality and how you can manifest whatever you want. So it's like we're deprogramming ourselves so we can then reprogram ourselves. And this is, you know, like I've tapped a little bit on victim mentality, and this is just some of the things that you want to look at. If you are in victim mentality, you'd be saying things like, how could they do this to me? Everyone abandons me. You know, I never get the happy outcome, you know, but this is the old programming. Yeah, this is how potentially we used to be. And as we become aware of it, like I remember for me, when I realized how much of a massive victim I was like, oh my God, that was really ugly for me to see. You know, I was like, I don't want to be like that. I want to be positive and I want to be the hero in my own story. And I was like, if I don't change this, my kids are going to grow up to be victims too. And I'm like, there's no way in hell I want them to spend their lives feeling as if life is happening, you know, to them. So it was a really big wake-up call for me. And I was like, I'm absolutely changing all of this. So as I said to you before, like your core beliefs want to be proved right. That's the wounded ego. The wounded ego doesn't have an open mindset. It has a fixed mindset. The wounded ego is in love with the beliefs because the beliefs just keep pumping the wounded ego up. Even though it's painful, right? Even though a belief is painful, and let's say we have people abandoning us, the wounded ego is like, see, I knew it. I knew they were going to abandon me too. I'm so right. Yeah. And so you want to create a healthy ego, one that empowers you, so that when someone walks away from you, rather than you going attacking them, you go, okay, how did I create this? How am I responsible for this? How am I going to change this? What do I want to do? Because I don't want this to keep happening to me. So how am I going to own it and transform it? Yeah. So our identity is made up of multiple things. A lot of it is the wounded ego. And when we decide to change, the reason why we find it so confronting is because essentially we have to let a part of our identity die. We have to let it dissolve. And that's the most painful part, because it feels like, again, a massive tower moment where the foundations you've been standing on as an individual have to collapse so you can build new ones. And it's that part when they collapse that you feel really overwhelmed, you feel lost, you feel like you want to give up. But that's the breakthrough moment. That's the moment where you're like, okay, what do I want to create now? So it's really important to be supported through that, because it's heavy. The shadow work is really heavy. And that's essentially what the twin flame dynamic comes in to teach you. You get to this point in your life where the universe is like, she's ready now. Yeah, or she's not listening. Let's give her this really big lesson now to wake her up, to wake him up. Right? So essentially it's for your growth and your expansion and your ascension. And when you can get out of victim mentality and you start seeing it like that, it sets you free. Yeah. So any questions about anything? No? Okay. Now I put this in here because I wanted to share with you that when you meet your twin flame, and probably even before you meet your twin flame, you have a sense of something coming. You have a sense that something big is coming, a transformation, a person, something like that. And the telepathy between you two is strong. Now, this is the part that is really important that I really want people to understand, is that when you have those tower moments and you feel negativity towards your twin flame, they feel that. They feel judged. If you're judging them, they feel it. They hear it, everything. They feel your energy, and that sends them to run. Okay, so if you're not thinking, if you're not seeing your twin flame through the eyes of love and thinking about positive things about your twin flame, they're going to stay away from you until that changes. So this is why I say to people, it's really important. If you want people in your life, you've got to see them through the eyes of love. That's why separation can take decades sometimes. Because if somebody essentially does something to the other twin, and they're like, I can't believe he did that to me, and you stay with that story for 20 years that he did that to me, he's going to be gone for 20 years. Yeah, he's going to feel it, he's going to hear it, and he's probably going to feel the same thing. I can't believe she did that to me. And so this energy, this negative energy, just gets passed through, back and forth, back and forth. But when you come out of victim mentality and you love yourself unconditionally, and you move towards that, it's a process, and you change the way you view your twin, right? Essentially, you want to get to a point where you wish them well, where you want to see them happy, even if that means without you. Yeah, and you want to think loving thoughts about them and be grateful to them that they came in and helped you transform your life so much. That's when they come back. They're magnetically drawn back to your positivity and your love, because essentially that's what this whole situation and relationship is about, learning to love ourselves unconditionally so we can love others unconditionally. And we can just love and accept them as they are. So when you get to that place where you love and accept your flame, your twin, as they are, without wanting to change them, when you don't want or need anything from them, that's where you can have harmony and a beautiful relationship with them. That's where you can build a solid relationship with them. And if you two are meant to, you are meant to be together in this lifetime, and you want to be together in this lifetime, then that's when that can happen. But it has to start with the journey that you have with yourself first. So your negative thoughts need to be changed. Yeah. And it's the same, it's the same when when you think of a friend, and I've just put this in there, when you think of a friend and then they call you and you're like, oh my God, I was just thinking of you. We're so connected. I can't believe it. That's telepathy. Right? And if that's just a friend, a good close friend that you have a beautiful connection with, imagine how much your twin hears and feels. Right? It'd be 10 times that. So that's why it's really important to keep yourself in a beautiful state and your thoughts positive and uplifted. And all you got to do is think, anytime I'm not thinking something positive, okay, what's going on for me right now? What do I need to change? Yeah, is it little Anthea? Okay, little Anthea, what's going on for you? I feel abandoned. Okay, let's do some healing on that together. I'm here for you. You don't need it. We don't need anyone else. This is about us. Right? You go in and you do the inner child healing. Yeah. So that's where we will leave the webinar for today. Does anyone have any questions at all about that, or any other observations or comments?
I just want to say thank you. I thought it was really good. I thought you did a great job explaining it, and you didn't sugarcoat anything. And yeah, it sort of left me thinking more, and new words and expressions and things I haven't heard before. So it was beautiful. It was really, I really enjoyed it.
Oh, good. I'm glad. Thank you so much for letting me know that what your experience was like. It's important for me because, you know, a lot of people can find this type of work really confronting. But in my experience, this is the only way to navigate your way through the twin flame dynamics. Anything else will just lead to more pain and suffering, right? And that's really not what it's about. But because of our conditioning, that's kind of what we go through. So, yeah. Anyone else? No? Okay. So as I say before, if you have any questions, please contact me. The quickest way to do it is in Facebook Messenger under Anthea Spark, and you can follow me on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, or Facebook. And now I'm going to go into my program, which is the Path of the Warrior. So if this is where I say goodbye, thank you for spending your time with me. If you have watched me go through this part before, you can just clock off, but I'm just going to record it for YouTube. So thank you all. Goodbye. All right, so I'm going to talk about the program now. So this is the Healing Little You program called the Path of the Warrior. And this is what I took myself through to transform. This is what I did to get myself into this place where I feel whole and complete. So the program goes for 16 weeks, and you get 1 hour group sessions each week. You will do a lot of guided activations and meditations to help you heal your inner child. You'll get a unique affirmation track to help you reprogram your unconscious mind. And you get to be in a supportive and intimate group of people to go on this journey with. And this is the really good part of the program, because you get to practice being vulnerable with people, and you get to practice communicating with people. And it's through that collaboration with others that it really empowers you to share your story and share your wins and celebrate who you're becoming. And that support's really important. You know, having someone hear your story and you actually hear theirs is a really powerful part of your process. So each week we will work on different topics, and these are some of the topics. Sometimes I change them and chop them up a bit, but we'll work on improving your mindset, reconnecting you to your inner child in a deeper way, right? I know a lot of you have already been doing that, but this will be in a deeper way so you can have deeper transformation. We will work on self-love, diffusing triggers. I'll teach you how to use your voice in a powerful way, not just in your communication with others, but also through your expressions of how you show up in the world. We will look at removing your need for validation from anyone outside of you. Yeah. Like I said before, expressing yourself, empowering communication, welcoming self-forgiveness and self-acceptance are both really important if you want to move forward feeling whole and complete. Like if you want to have this really strong relationship with yourself, you have to find a way to love and accept all of who you are. And that's a process, right? We'll look at releasing anger, shame, and guilt. And these are 3 of the most toxic emotions that you can carry with you. And we'll do that there's a few emotional detox programs that I run. We will do them within the program. We will deprogram your childhood beliefs so that you can create new positive ones, improve your self-positive talk. And we also look at the different archetypes that you drop into, like the suspicious archetype, the teenage wound. And we'll look at finding ways to heal them within you so that you can step into higher values and show up in different ways in your relationships with others. So that's the program. For a program like this, I would usually charge $1,499. But for the next 2 weeks, I'm charging $5.97 for it. We've been in lockdown here in Melbourne for a really long time, and a lot of people have lost their jobs. And I know people all around the world have been affected by this lockdown. So I'm keeping it low for the next 2 weeks. If it's something you're interested in doing, there is a payment plan as well. And just reach out if even that's a struggle and you want to make it work. Just reach out and contact me. So the program will start on the 6th of November, and it will run at 9 a.m. every Saturday morning, Melbourne, Australia time. All of the sessions will be recorded and uploaded into a private Facebook group that you can watch in your own time if you can't make it. So I will pop the link in the video below. So if you're interested in doing it, you can click on the link below and you can join us. All right, so I'm just going to end the recording there.